I think all right, I think we are ready to start again. We're having a great conversation here about primary sources and thematic teaching and things like that. Nancy, if you could pull the presentation up again, or I can pull mine up. Oops. We'll start talking a little bit about what is a community of practice and what exactly, how can it help support you within your classroom itself. And I think this definition is just awesome. Simply because, and it's from Etienne, and we got to talk to him last year when we were being trained at the very beginning. But I think a couple of the things. Number one, interact regularly. That is one of the pieces that we really need to talk about. You need to engage in your within your community, within your group. The second thing is to learn how to teach better. Okay? As we start talking about, changing our philosophy and changing our teaching, how do we do it better? There's always, our motto is always better together. Well, how do we get there? And I think there were 3 outcomes that us as a group in ELA, we talked quite a bit about. The first one was an ongoing conversation. That idea of us connecting as teachers, it was very new. And so we had a common planning time, usually at night, 8 o'clock after all the kiddos went to bed. We also modeled within our class, how do we have those good conversations, those rich conversations about a topic? Because our kiddos didn't know how things were coming about. And once they saw Shaylin, myself, Erin Olson, Sean Heyer, a bunch of us come together and use Twitter and to use these conversations and put them in front of them, we modeled what good adult learners do. And so what happened was the kids started to engage in the same way. They started to collaborate, and we expected that level of collaboration. I think the second thing, one of the outcomes of collaborating is that Nick and Time PD. We didn't have to, we seeked out information. If we needed to have something, and I think Erin always said this best, if we needed something, we would seek it out. And if as a group, we found it together. And we would share it with the rest of us. And one person would bring an idea in, and we would just explode ideas. Because sometimes it's that nugget of information that's planted, and then it goes further and further, which helped us create this awesome PLN, this network of people. We went out to Twitter. A lot of them have these wonderful followers that if they tweet something out, we were getting automatic responses. And so that was the nice piece of that Anytime PD and how a community practice can play into that. So what we also had was what Joni was talking about, that shared philosophy, that shared work. And that was essential. It aligned our classrooms, it aligned our work, not only across curricular levels, but within our actual classroom time. If we had classrooms together, we would set up a laptop. We would do station work. Shaylin would be in one area of the room. I would be in the other area room, virtually for some kids, not so much for others. So we blended not only the curriculum, but we also blended what it looked like in the classroom. Some of the things, it's a group of some of the most passionate and improvement-oriented teachers and improvement-oriented change agents. Are you okay with change? Because what your classroom will look like Joni said, it's going to be completely different than traditional. If you noticed in her video, you never saw a teacher sitting down. They were always blending in. So if blended learning is kind of the joke with that too is, well, you can't find the teacher. It's kind of like, where's the teacher? Which is awesome because you're completely engaged with them too. The e-curriculum, of course, aligns to the Iowa Core, improving their practice. And then that social authoring and social learning. So that learning together and writing together. Again, Joni and Marcia had talked about that. 2 heads are better than 1, especially in a Moodle, making each other a co-teacher. So you're sharing that work, you're balancing that work. This is the model that you've seen a little bit today. Now, if we take a look at the very top, some of this will just spontaneously come together, okay, for what? A common purpose. When we seek information, we're seeking it for a specific reason. So once we have that purpose, we start to join. But we have to trust our members. And sometimes face-to-face is going to be the best way to get trust, but not necessarily all the time. So it's engaging, and this is where that engaging over time is going to come into play. Having trust among your members, having trust within the people that you're bringing into your classroom. At one point, I had my administrator, he loved to sit in and he loved to engage with our writing workshop. And what he would do, and at one point he pulled me aside, he said, I don't evaluate that teacher. How do I know that they're doing what's right for my kids? It became this trust not only for me being in someone else's class, but that other teacher being in mine. And, I never thought of it until he had brought it up, but he had trust in what we were doing. He knew it was different. But just for him to start thinking about, wow, this is really changing what the classroom is. And our resources started to expand too. Things that I never had access to were now being brought in, and even experiences. Sometimes in rural Iowa, we have our community notions, and sometimes we don't know what else is out there. And so it's just nice to see what else is out there. The next one, having that tacit information and that shared explicit knowledge, and then sharing practice. We're better together. Again, what types of practice are you doing? And what are things that you're doing to expand what you do? Whether it's back channel conversations, they work great within collaborative classrooms because two groups have the same conversation at once. Other things, we talk about collective intelligence. Teachers and students need to understand that collective intelligence. Service projects work wonderfully in a blended learning community. Not only are you supporting one physical community, you're supporting both, or in this case, 5 or 6, however many that you connect with. And then implicitly held knowledge. Okay. It's things that we can transfer over and over and over again. And as we talk about, again, coming together spontaneously, coming together over time, it becomes practice. It becomes something that you do. It is something that you crave. And as kids and our students start to crave it because they know that they're being heard. They know that they're being challenged a little bit. Part of the Iowa Core for ELA talks about persuasive, or it used to talk about persuasion, now it's more argument. What is that counterpoint piece that students are meant to have? And if they don't have a voice from someone else that's outside of their community to challenge them, so again, it involves the Iowa Core, and it also involves some other pieces just within content knowledge. Within our pieces, we have that shared e-curriculum development. First of all, we need to define. And our group was just talking a little bit about how do we know what's out there? How do we know how it's arranged? Is it thematic? Is it not? So what needs to be outlined? What are our needs as teachers? What needs to be outlined for us to share? To discover options for content development. How do we discover? What are some of these learning repositories that are there? Design, going through what is the blended learning design? How does conceptually based fit in? And then essential questions and skills. How do we fit into that core? Okay. Development, what are some engagement strategies? We talked about back channeling. How do you have more than one group connecting with each other? How do we blend this different environment? Some think that there's only going to be they're separate entities. Online and the face-to-face, they need to play together. They cannot be separate from. It isn't a matter of assigning modules at night for them to have done in the morning with nothing to do with them. The modules themselves have to be part of your everyday. There should not be a line between what is actually taught in class and what is taught out of class. They need to be seamlessly involved together. So improving our practice. Again, we talk about that just in time, that nick in time PD. First, we have to build trust. From trust, we know that we can talk to each other. And one of the best pieces that comes out of this is teachers not competing with each other, they're teachers collaborating with each other. So it's not, ooh, I have the better idea. No, it's working together to create that one great idea. Next one, sharing explicit knowledge, and then share tacit knowledge. So not only to know the what, they also need to know the how. How do I engage in improving not only my practice, but my students' outcomes? And last but not least, we talk about it's not about being taught knowledge, it's about absorbing it. Through our mind, through our bodies, through our senses. If we completely engage ourselves as teachers, we can change our teaching practice. Just knowing that our classrooms, they're going to look different. They're not going to be in rows. We're going to be thinking outside our local environment. And then we're going to be solving real problems, having real solutions to real problems. And how does that come about? Again, it's that networking piece. What are some of the service learning pieces? What are some of the civic duties that fall under the Iowa Core under civic literacy? And how do we play into those in history and in science and in English language arts? How do they pull together? What can we do for a better us? And these are the different things that we've seen. These are the different things that we've seen over time. We have the e-curriculum here. And notice how the e-curriculum is not the driving force. It's not the only force here. The collaboration is the force. This is what aligns us. So I want you to think of this as an alignment piece. This is what we are doing. We're sharing practice. We're creating a collective intelligence, and we're implicitly moving forward and creating new knowledge. And again, we're back to just our main graphic. This is the entire picture. This is how the conversations, this is how the blended learning experience should come together. So with that, I will pass this to Nancy.